Hello, welcome to another episode of Culture Can Fork Off. And I am Becky, and I am excited to talk to you today about why diet culture messed us up. That is the theme of today. So let's get into it. So, first of all, let's start off with what is diet culture. If you grew up in the 90s or the noughties, then you will be aware of the pressure that was placed on us to be thin. I mean, the thin ideal was everywhere, wasn't it? Like societal norms, the beauty standards that were out there was placing a lot of excessive value on thinness, that appearance, making us believe that thinness equaled success, it equaled super, I can't speak now, superiority, you know what I mean, and beauty as well. Like, we were made to feel like you were not successful, you were not beautiful, you wouldn't be popular, whatever it may be, unless you were thin. And that stuck with us for quite some time. Like, it did promote an environment of shame, body distrust, and a negative relationship with food as well, leaving us to have restrictive eating patterns that led us into restriction cycles, always feeling like you're on a diet. I'll talk more on this in a moment. But so, yes, there was no wonder that so many women have a poor relationship with food and their bodies as well. You only have to look at TV programs and the films and the magazines to see why. Like, you remember, open up the magazine and there was like the ring of shame everywhere, like the I forgot what it was called, but it was that red ring, wasn't it, that they put across all the magazines, like when celebrities were wearing a bikini, or even if when they just had children and stuff as well, which is shocking. And they'd be like, oh, look at this body roll, or look at this cellulite, or look at these stretch marks. And it made us feel very shameful around completely normal bodies, making us feel that we weren't allowed to have those things because they were shamed upon. It meant that we weren't beautiful. It made us not feel worthy, I guess, is the main thing there. And I guess a lot of people say as well, going like, well, why do you look up to celebrities? Why are you wanting to be like them? And it's like, it's not about that. It was about that we're exposed to it in so many different ways and forms. Like, it was on the TV, it was in films, it was in the magazines, like even just walking into a shop and you would see like these covers everywhere. Celebrity shame, whatever it may be, like on the front cover, because God forbid someone had put on a little bit of weight. And we weren't allowed to, change our bodies. It feels like our bodies weren't allowed to change. Even after going different chapters, different eras of our lives. Like I said, having babies, or getting getting a bit older where our bodies do change a little bit. And that's absolutely fine. But it's like we weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to do that. And it's still a little bit of that around even now, I would say. So the research does show that women exposed to this thin ideal, and that's like on the media, even adverts, photos, that kind of societal norm beauty standards that are ridiculous, if you ask me. You tend to have a greater dissatisfaction, or a more negative view on your body, stronger urges to restrict food and diet, and more desire to look at your eating, monitor your eating as well. So the research is there to show that, there's no wonder why so many of you struggle, or us, I did at one point. And it's not even that as well, there's this generational thing as well. And speaking to a lot of women, as I do, it was maybe comments from parents. And at the end of the day, you start to look at actually, maybe it's not their fault, because that's something that they got to expose to as well, but they don't know any different. They didn't know that you can start questioning and fighting against it, because you have to remember they've probably grown up with very similar things going on as well. But this generational pull, these comments, and people do think it's okay to make comments on your appearance and your weight, and it shouldn't be the first thing that you say to someone, should it really? You know, when, and I have a lot of conversations, obviously, and people have say, you know, the first thing that someone said to me was, "Oh, you look good," after I lost weight, but actually it was through stress, or I'd just come out of an illness. And it's like, well, why do we put so much, you know, emphasis on saying someone looks good just because they've lost weight? It's this, again, it's his comments, and again, it goes back to this diet culture and the thin ideal, and making that out that means beautiful. You know, it all kind of ties into each other and all links. So it's really, really interesting for me to like dive into this even more, and being able to share my thoughts and feelings on it. But as mentioned, like as well, like the comments, then we had the media as well. I've already mentioned about the magazines, but even on movies, and a lot of it was joking or done in satire. But it's not, if you're exposed to it so much, yes, it may be a joke, but you start taking those things seriously, if that makes sense. Like, and especially when you're young and impressionable, and a lot of these movies coming out and what you're watching at a young age were making these jokes, or making, you know, references, I guess, to body weight and thinness. So of course it was just kind of ingrained in us. It was coming from all different aspects in all different ways. But yeah, the biggest things as well, like even on the adverts, I mean, everyone remembers a Special K. Like, remember like the Pinchy Inch? Yeah, and I used to do that. I did used to, and this is when I was having my own issues around food, and I wasn't eating, I was heavily restricting. I used to still then pinch my stomach, pinch my thighs, and because I could pinch an inch, I used to think I must be still fat, which is devastating when you look back. So why, you know, it's, again, it just shows how damaging this is to young people, and then we grow up with these ingrained thoughts. I mean, and nothing tastes as good as skinny feels as well, just popped into my head. You know, with Kate Moss famously saying that line, who's a supermodel who's known for, like, should we say, a certain a lifestyle, that, you know, and that was promoting the, again, restriction around eating. I mean, I can think of a million things that taste better than Skinny Feels right now, because I tell you something, I was miserable when I was chasing skinny, and restricting and comparing myself to others. To me, you know, I can think of so much things taste better. How about food freedom? That tastes like miles better than Skinny Feels. But yeah, that's kind of how it affected me. Was like my parents are extremely supportive. My mum never talked about dieting or food in that way, so I was very extremely lucky to have a supportive household around me, where comments weren't really made about weight and stuff. And yet, even growing up in that environment, I still struggled. So it does just show how much exposure there was out there to this diet culture, and how it did affect everyone in different ways. I mean, as I mentioned in my intro, I was being bullied at the same time, like a lot of people in school at that time. And for me, I think it was a way of control, but also because it was shown everywhere. So it just seemed that's the thing you do. I want to be popular. I want to be loved. So skinny, it's a thin ideal. Surely that's what you got to do. So that obviously that's how I interpreted it. So it's that's how it affected me. And yeah, that I remember telling myself, nothing tastes as good as Skinny Feels. It was a mantra I used myself, pinching the inch. But like I said, it just made me miserable. I was always chasing this skinny ideal, thinking everything would be fine if I could just be skinny. I'd be popular, people will love me, I'll be successful, I'll be pretty, whatever it may be. Like, I thought that would solve all my problems. But yeah, it didn't. Like, I know we can have, it's not a spoiler alert, I guess, on that one. It didn't. It just made me more miserable. It made me compare myself more. It made me heavily restrict more. It made me think about food even more, my body image even more, like every single waking moment of my day. And it would be super overwhelming. And that's all I could think about day and night. I mean, it drained my energy. It drained the life out of me, basically. You know, it took my joy. It took me not showing up for others and myself. It's the biggest thing. And it's not just the like effect of the body image, it's the emotional side and the well-being side, like I've just mentioned there too. Like, dieting and restriction is often associated with emotional eating, and that's eating in response to your emotions as well, whether that be stress, whether it be that sadness. And I do class restricting under emotional eating as well, like emotional restricting, because I think that often gets missed. And I know that's something that I definitely used to do, like stress, overwhelm, feeling I was out of control. The first thing I did was restrict again, because that's what helped me like feel like, okay, this is something I can control. So I think it's really important to remember that emotional restriction is definitely a thing. But being in these kind of patterns where like you're dieting, you're restricting, it can actually mediate weight gain over time. So dieting, some cases does backfire, and you're someone that's been stuck in those cycles as well, like dieting on and off, on and off. You might be in a position now where you do struggle with weight, and it's not uncommon. You'll have to get used to me. I never can get my words out, by the way, but here we go. Unfiltered, like showing up authentically as myself. That's what I promote. So we just roll with it. But anyway, like, yes, if you're someone that has got stuck in these cycles, you do probably, and that is not uncommon to see, that people do struggle with their weight. It's always like up, down, up, down. Maybe you diet and then you put on more weight, whatever it may be. But particularly women who do diet more frequently, you can have a higher risk of emotional eating, which is then linked to your increased weight over time as well. So if you're someone that does struggle with that side, like it's normal, and I don't want you to ever feel like you're alone in this, because like I speak to, oh God, like so many women every day in my DMs, like obviously with clients as well, and this is so common. And yeah, I just want you to know that you're not alone in here at all. But and hopefully, you'll find some things that help in this podcast as well. So also, long-term dieting, it might bring now like short-term results or those improvements, when you feel more control, you're feeling more positive. But many studies, like many studies, it is shown that well-being can deteriorate over time. So those mood boosts, they can start to fade, your self-esteem may decline or become more fragile. To me, this happens when your values are not being met. And what I mean by that, and values is something that we look at with our clients quite deeply. If you're not living the life that you want because you're too worried about dieting, too worried about your body image, too worried about missing exercise, too worried about, I can't possibly go out to dinner because you're worried about the food and you can't control it, or going for brunch with the girls, or having an ice cream with your kids on the beach, or having a birthday cake at your birthday. Like, if you're missing out on those things and they actually really mean something to you, then of course your mood is going to start to drop. It's going to start to feel miserable because you haven't filled your cup in your mental well-being. That makes sense. So if you're like, if being social, if going out, like I've got a client as well, and like one of her values is to explain it really well. She loves a date night every weekend, her and her husband, they go to the pub, they have a couple of pints, and that is something that means a lot to her. They meet with friends. So when she's tried to do things in the past, and obviously if she's like, right, I shouldn't be doing that, I should restrict, and you then get all this guilt and shame about when you do go and socialise around these things. So we've worked on her being able to include this within her plan. And this is like, she's in a really good spot right now. She's like, I can't believe like she's getting the progress she wants, she's feeling good in her body, and she's still doing that on the weekend. Like every weekend, going out, having a couple of pints, meeting up with friends, having fun. Because you can't live your life, like you have to think, what can you do long term? Can you really say you're never going to have some birthday cake long term? Can you really say I'm never going to go out for dinner, I'm never going to go for brunch with the girls? Because you will feel miserable if that is important to you. And this is what I'm trying to get at. You need to be able to think about sustainability and longevity, because that is going to help you more in the long run. Yeah, you might not see the massive weight decrease straight away, like with other short-term fixes and diets, but you will over time. and you'll be happier for it. And that's exactly what we work on with our clients, and that's exactly what if you've been following me on Instagram, you'll see the stories that we get. So talking about that, social media. So that is a big amplifier for body image and diet culture as well. And if you're seeing lots of that kind of stuff, like on platforms like TikTok, I mean, I know I call out the skinny talk stuff quite often, or Instagram as well, then they can be linked to increased body dissatisfaction, feeling more negative, feel more restrictive eating, lower body acceptance. So, and unfortunately, there is a lot of noise out there, you know, and creators posing themselves as experts while normalizing restrictive eating, like toxic eating habits and exercise and stuff like that. You know, it's really dangerous, and you probably see me call it out all the time, which is why, because it's like, I know how that affects people, and obviously being 41 myself, I've been through like all the diet culture's like bullshit, and I don't want to see it happen again, because I know what it's like when you're in that spot, and I will call it out because I know, and I've got my qualifications around nutrition, around exercise, and I'm gonna call out the bullshit, because we don't need to see it. We need to actually have real guidance and real advice from people that are trained and people that are experts in this field, not some creator that are posing themselves as an expert when they're really not. So I tell my clients, and this is a really good thing to do, so this is exactly what I tell my clients: go and create your feeds. Create your feeds to things that make you feel more positive and bring you joy. Like the anti-diet or body acceptance content, you know, that really can help kind of buffer the effects of all that other noise out there. So have a think, like after this podcast, if you see posts that are popping up and they're not bringing you joy, they're bringing in guilt, they're bringing in shame, they're bringing in like negative thought patterns, unfollow, get rid. Okay, it's going to be the best thing to help start rewiring and reframing your brain. So diet culture doesn't just affect what and how we eat, it does shape how we feel about ourselves, like I've mentioned, and that's whether it's a source of guilt, shame, or worth. There's this vicious cycle for those as well, like I've just mentioned, those cycles that you get stuck in. Like you get exposed to a thin ideal, and this could have happened years and years ago, so you could have been stuck in these cycles for quite some time. Then you start dieting, but you get body dissatisfaction, you get more restrictive behaviour or emotional eating, possibly weight changes, but sometimes that means you start maybe putting on weight, regaining weight as well, shame, self-criticism, and then possibly more dieting. That we keep going around these cycles. You know, sometimes it's because an event comes up, a holiday, and we can't be on a diet. So we press the fuck it button, everything goes out the window, it's like, oh no, I've got to go back on a diet again. Instead of learning how to go with the ebbs and flows of life. Like, you should be able to go on holiday, you should be able to have meals out, you should be able to enjoy life. But it's not thinking that every time those things come up that it's another hurdle and it's another setback, because it doesn't have to be, because you can enjoy life and you can do these things. No matter what diet culture tells you, yeah, get in the bin. That's what I say. So many studies do show that dieting can actually worsen mental health in the long run, and you can see why. Like, unfortunately, thanks to society and diet culture, women often tie their identity with self-worth to body shape or diet success as well. So when dieting fails, as it often does long term, like I mentioned, just heavily restricting things, saying you can't do certain things, you can't do that long term. So when you feel like you fail, that can lead to shame, your identity conflict as well. I do a lot of work around identity with our clients to help with this, and then that negative self-image come in. And believe me, I have been there. Like, if you listen to my intro podcast, you probably hear a lot about my story, and also I mentioned a little bit there. So if you're listening to this podcast, then maybe you have been in this place too. Maybe you still are, and maybe this resonates. But the good news is we can change it. And as I've just explained, it is about the mindset. You can't out diet a poor relationship with food, and you can't out exercise a poor relationship with your body. As like, as we just said, like in the long run, it's going to make it much worse. And it might be the reason you're feeling lost right now, because you are stuck in this cycle of thinking, I'll just diet more and that'll fix everything. I'll just exercise more and that'll fix everything. And it's not the answer. So what we do need to do is reframe, can I ever say that? So what we do need to do is reframe and rewire, I'll get there, your mind around this, okay? So it's all about reframing and rewiring. So this is what I did, and it took a lot of work. I'm not going to deny that, but that's exactly why I started coaching, because I found the tools that worked. And I put them all together, made an amazing Empower program. So I honestly never thought I'd get to this point. If you asked me, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, that I wouldn't be overwhelmed, stressing about food, worrying about what I was eating, counting calories every single day, every single little morsel and crumb, I'd be like, no way. But I'm here, and I'm feeling free. And you know, I still go out and socialise. We have takeaways every now and again when we want them. I love my cookies. If anyone sees them to come, I get my cookie from the bakery every week. I eat sourdough bread that I get from the bakery. I eat chocolate every now and again when I want it. You know, I don't restrict myself with these things. And I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm the most confident I've ever been in my body and in my mind. And feeling absolutely free to be my unique self. So getting into strength training really helped me as well. And as we age, doing some form of resistance training and is really beneficial, especially for women. But when I started strength training, it really helped me view my body in a different way. Started to look at how strong I was, rather than doing hours of cardio thinking I had to sweat it out and burn as much as possible. I don't care about that now. I focus on how I'm feeling, how my body feels, how strong I feel. So stop looking at all those calories. Start looking at what my body could actually do for me. I also educate myself around food. Like I said, I've got my level 4 nutrition qualification, and I looked into calories, into macros. I started to understand what they did for my body. Instead of like, how do I eat less? It was like, how do I make sure my energy levels are up? How do I make sure that I'm sleeping well? Because it does affect your sleep as well, with eating, that you're getting the nutrients in that you need. I'm getting enough protein to help maintain my muscles. Like, protein is the building blocks of your body, and it repairs any cells in your body, and builds and repairs any cells in your body, I should say. So that includes skin and hair and nails. So it's not just about like building muscle, but it does help maintain muscle, and that does deteriorate as we get older. So it definitely needs to be part of it. Anyway, I'm going off a little bit here, but with all these things, the biggest thing I did was the mindset. I started challenging thoughts that were coming up, the negative self-talk, the comparing myself. What happens is we have these neural pathways in our brains. I'm going to go a bit sciencey for you. We have these neural pathways in our brain, and when we've been telling ourselves the same thing over and over and over again, like putting yourself down, telling yourself, I don't know, that you're fat, or you'll never be pretty, or you'll never be confident, or whatever it is it means, whatever it is to you, like whatever you're telling yourself right now, those things that are holding you back. But that, because you've been telling yourself those things for so many years, then those neural pathways are really strong. And what we need to do is create new ones, and we do that by challenging the thoughts. I'll talk more in depth about this in another podcast, because I know I'm talking a lot about this, but it's very, very passionate about this stuff. But we need to challenge the thoughts. I also worked on body acceptance. So not body positivity, body acceptance. And body acceptance means that you accept your body even on the days that you feel a little bit like a potato. Like, if I don't have days that I feel like a potato, it's absolutely fine. I look in the mirror and I'm like, do you know what? Don't feel great today. But, okay, meh, doesn't matter. Got on with my day. I used to spiral, and it used to go into my day, make me feel miserable. Same as when I used to step on the scales, which I don't even weigh myself now. I don't expect my clients to either. But when I used to, and it wasn't where I wanted, spiral. Same with looking in the mirror, big spiral. Now, it's just like, okay, that's fine. I'll be, doesn't matter. I feel all right. and move on with my day, because I don't want my body image to impact how I'm showing up on a day-to-day. So that's body acceptance, because the next day I'll wake up and I'll probably be fine. That's the difference in body acceptance. It's being accepting your body through the highs and lows, because we all do. It's like anything, emotions, our days. The relationship towards my food as well, started looking at as well, in the emotional, like around emotional eating, emotional stress. But these things are all things that we teach inside Empower. And I have got some free guides around all of these subjects as well, which I'd love to offer out, love to help people as much as I can. So if if this does resonate and you are feeling stuck, my DMs are always open. But remember, you can get over diet culture. No matter how many years this has had a grip over you, it is possible to change, as many of my clients do on a day-to-day. So just reach out. My DMs are always open. And if you want to know more about what I do, just head to the link in this episode, or if you follow me on Instagram, head there and you can find out more about what I do. Thank you, and I'll speak to you soon.